They eat earthworms?
They will eat earthworms, they will eat berries, they will eat insects.
And they have an interesting way to find earthworms?
They do indeed. They have a way of finding worms that's kind of along the lines of, you know, when you buy bait in the bait shops, I've been told that people who supply the bait shops often take a big post and they thump the ground and vibrate the ground, and it brings up earthworms. Well, the turtles knew this a long time before we did, because the wood turtle will move along the edge of the muddy edge of a river, and it'll bounce itself up and down with its front feet and vibrate the ground just enough that worms will come up out of the ground, and then they'll grab the worm and eat it.
So the wood turtle is declining, but it's not so much because of habitat, and that would be in contrast to some of the other declining species or threatened species that we have, where it's mostly due to habitat.
I think
so that's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, it's unusual. For example, this is the carapace, or top shell, of a box turtle. You know, they're a small land-living turtle that is still found in parts of your district, in the wooded areas. But the box turtle is a species whose really fortunes is really turned because of habitat loss. So when we convert these open woodlands into farms, and or when we open up a woodland and lots of people are moving through it, they're going to find these animals. And again, this is a protected species.
The shell's usually not white like that.
Yeah, we should explain that. It's white because the little scales, which you can still see a few of them here, have fallen off, and this is the bony part of a shell of the box turtle. And I don't know how the camera angle is going to work here, but you can see that the turtle's shell has the vertebrae, or backbones, fused to the bottom. So the turtle's shell is part of its skeleton. But yeah, so it's good that you mentioned that. Box turtles are not usually white. But this is an average adult-sized box turtle. And they're well known for living very long lives. The box turtles will go over 100 years.
Huh.
But you know,
and you have a way. There's some relationship between the shell and the and the aging. I mean, there's a way to estimate the age sometimes.
I think I can show that best with this wood turtle shell. Not all turtles, you know, are useful for this. I mean, like the painted turtle doesn't show these scute lines here, these what we call annuli in each of the scales.
The scute is a single scale.
A single scale on the bottom. And I think, again, I don't know the angle here, but if, for example, this would be the little bit of scale here that the animal was hatched out with, and then every year it grows some and then hibernates. And when it hibernates, it stops growing and it forms a line. And so as you look at this one scute here, I can count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then the lines get very thin because the animal's growth is slowing. But I would go probably maybe up to 20 lines here if you got a magnifying glass. And then it stops because the animal stopped growing. So we know that this turtle is at least 20 years old when it died, but it could be a lot older than that. This just gives us a minimum old.
While you've got it there, let me just ask one other related question.
Sure.
And you may not be able to do this without, you know, detailed study or chemical analysis, but if you analyzed, you know, the width or the chemical composition of the rings or the layers, does that give you a history of the turtle's health? In other words, if it's sick one year, or if it's laying eggs, or I don't know, whatever else turtles do, is there some reflection of the animal's history that you can divine from that?
That's an excellent question. And each one of these scutes, certainly the width of this line, this annulus or line, will tell you how much the turtle grew that year. And you can see that, you know, turtles grow faster when they're young and then they slow down. But even during this time of rapid growth, you can see that, for example, this one is narrower than this one. So this was a better year for it than this one. And so it might reflect like the temperatures, it might reflect a cooler summer with less growth, or maybe it was a drought year, didn't grow quite as much. As far as the chemical composition here, I can't recall a study that actually looked at the chemical composition of each of these to see whether there were any differences. That would actually be a very good course of study. The scute itself is made out of the same stuff that our fingernails are made of. It's a keratin, and I'm sure that as keratin grows, it probably does incorporate chemicals from the body. And so that's an excellent question. That could be a good line of research.
I want to change subject just a little bit here, but I know I've encountered this situation before, and I'm sure many of my fellow Kalamazooans have. You're driving down the road, you think you see a turtle in the road.
Yeah.
What should you do?
That's a good question.
And I know it's don't run it over, but is there anything is there something you can do to rescue it?
Sure.
Should you handle it?
Road mortality is a very important cause of loss for turtles, because very often we've built our roads, say, between a wetland and the higher ground that a turtle needs to nest on, and so it is a serious cause of loss. What I always tell people first is don't risk your own life for the turtle. I mean, if it's dangerous traffic, hard to pull off safely, don't do it. We hate to see the turtle in jeopardy, but let's not risk our own lives. But let's say you can pull over and the traffic is kind of light, and you're afraid for the turtle not making it across. I'll tell you what I do is I always, assuming it's the only turtle I wouldn't just go up and pick up would be a snapping turtle. And we can recognize those because they have a very long, thick tail from above. The tail is huge with big spikes along the top of it, and they'll probably wheel around to face you anyway. They're defensive animals. But any other turtle you can probably mostly pick up carefully, and always put it in the direction it was going if you can. Now, obviously, if it's heading into serious jeopardy, like a big concrete culvert or something that it'll never get out of, you may want to move it to the other side. But if you don't put it where it's going, it's quite likely to turn around and decide it wants to go back into the road.
And why would it be crossing the road? I mean, what's it looking for? Why do turtles move?
You'll find that in May, you get male turtles moving between bodies of water looking for mates. And then in June, which is the big nesting season here in Michigan, you'll get the female turtles leaving the wetlands and looking for a higher, more sunny place to lay their eggs. A turtle lays its eggs in June, and the eggs are buried in the ground. They dig a nest with their hind feet, put the eggs in, lay the eggs in the hole, cover it over, and then abandon it. And this they've clearly done for millions of years, so it works. The baby turtle then takes about 2 to 3 months to hatch out, and in most turtles it will then dig up out of the ground and head for the nearest water. But unfortunately, as I said, we sometimes put our roads between the higher ground and the lower ground, and that's why we see so many turtles in the roads, especially during June, which is a bad time. The other time you see turtles crossing roads is during drought years. Like if we have a really dry summer, these smaller ponds might start drying out, and especially you get these little painted turtles moving out of the ponds and trying to find a body of water that's
Can they smell water?
We think they can. There is some good research to show that turtles
Didn't seem like water would have much of a smell.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but water that's true, but water has a lot of stuff mixed in it. And they can probably smell perhaps some of the organic compounds that are coming off of a lake, something that we can't detect.
Is that